apart from it, and therefore I'm proud to present some slides about it. We will talk about what iRPA is. We will talk about automation offerings. We will conclude some things, and afterwards we will still have some minutes for questions and answers. Okay, what is iRPA? Let's maybe start with RPA, because that's in the name. So that's it's robotic process automation. What is that? So the definition, you could say, is business process automation technology based on software robotics or artificial intelligence. If you take it one level more simple, then we could say we're mimicking the user with a script, with a bot script. What is then iRPA? Well, that is the RPA solution from SAP. It is within the intelligent technologies. That's why it's also called intelligent RPA from SAP. And you will see that is delivered with a lot of SAP-focused accelerators and best practices. When it comes to automation, we went through a whole journey already. We focused first on industrial automation. Think about the Industrial Revolution with the textile machines and so on that came up. And as we now go through business process automation and digital transformation, we're becoming more and more an intelligent enterprise, which is also the philosophy of SAP. So the idea is that we automate more and more the repetitive tasks that don't really add value, so we can really focus as a human on what is really bringing us the actual value. So what is iRPA? Let's have a short look under the hood, I would say. So the RPA architecture is pretty light and straightforward, I have to say. So there is a studio where scripts are being developed. So you could see it as capturing a process, recording a process, mimicking the clicks that you would do as a user, or calling APIs in the background. So you develop there, you test and debug your process, and in the end you get a package, which is a zip file that we can again upload in the factory. The factory is a cloud component. Here's where you import and schedule your packages. So you actually orchestrate all your bot processes and all different functional areas, finance, supply chain, whatsoever. And it's also the place where you can dashboard and monitor in a very attractive and clear way your bot processes. You could compare it a bit with background jobs that have been monitored, but then you will see in a really nice, clear overview, which is offered by the factory. So there's a cloud component. And then in the end, we still need something installed, deployed on machines to actually let the bot run. So we have two modes. We have attended mode. So that's basically, I could install the agent on my own local PC. And instead of processing some tasks myself, I just let the bot run, and the attended mode will then be triggered. So meaning that I triggered the bot and it's on my machine. I can even see the bot doing the work for me, if you want. Another way to do that is to have it in an unattended mode. So that's then when you deploy on the server, for example, the agent, and then you can, just like a background job, schedule when the job should run. So those are the components. The studio, the agents, you can just download for free online from SAP. The factory, they also, you have trial systems that you can try for free. But this is the cloud component that you need in order to have running those bot processes, because here's also where you get built on. I'll come back on that. So we have the studio, just a little bit to benchmark with more maybe mature RPA solutions. Think about a UiPath, think about the Blue Prism. So SAP did actually they bought Contextor, which was already a very reliable RPA solution. And what they did is actually extended that solution constantly in order to get a real good RPA that doesn't have to do less than another one. So it covers all the classic RPA features, you could say. And what is very useful is that you can make robust processes via direct access to standard SAP APIs. So those APIs that you run through the background, I would say, are available already in the studio and there to use. So they are pre-delivered, you could say. Attended and an unattended mode is possible. There is a powerful JavaScript editor. So you can, as you see on the left, you can drag and drop your processes, and then in the JavaScript editor, you can then still fine-tune your code, you would say. So there's a high robotic component reusability and a step-by-step debugger. The processes, or you have it as a click mimicking, I would say. So you do the steps that you would normally do in the front end. That can be a UI5, so as for HANA in the cloud, for example, but it can also be an SAP ECC system with a classic GUI. That is a possibility, but making it even more robust is using those API calls that will trigger in the background directly the process. So you don't have to go through the screens, but it's actually calling an action through the background. Just a view on the roadmap. Just to state that it is evolving a lot. We see a lot of features coming in on an extremely rapid pace. So everything which came in already is really very useful, we can testify. And you see that it's not at the end, they have a big roadmap to come still. And you will notice that everything is of course focused on SAP. And the connector improvements for SAP GUI, for SAP UI5, integrate with SAP Analytics Cloud product family, more towards the future, artificial intelligence, machine learning will come in, and so on and so on. I will not go into the details. This is just available on the roadmap viewer, for example, and we are really liking what we see, what will still come. One of them is also maybe to highlight the marketplace, where we as a value chain will soon also offer our own bots that have proven their success. So what is the vision of SAP? So they take it really seriously. They want to create the best integrated RPA solution for automatic SAP applications. So you see, it's not really going directly in the market with the other solutions like a UiPath and Blue Prism. No, they have their niche, which is SAP, which is still broad, of course, but that's their niche they want to focus on. They want to create a stable and efficient RPA, reducing implementation time and maintenance efforts. So that's where the value is, of course. And then more and more towards the future, expanding those artificial intelligence presence by embedding it in RPA core. That was a bit the technical background. Now, this is how we, at least at the value chain, also offer it, but it's a general thing, you could say. This is the types of iRPA automation. And that is also where the title of today comes from, how to create instant business value with iRPA. Well, it is located here. let me show you. So you have a design workshop with the customer, or the customer knows exactly, exploring the best practices already, what he or she wants. So they decide to go for a business process automated business case. Say they select a best practice bot. Starting from there, I will show those best practices both right after. But starting from there, you immediately accelerate your implementation. So we have functional consultants that in the Cloud Factory will deploy that best practice bot, which gives you already a proof of concept, which is working immediately. It can be tested. But of course, what we always say is that's the 80% which is a fit with the customer needs. The other 20%, we still tweak in the RPA studio and JavaScript or debugging, and therefore we use a technical consultant. So we start from an accelerator, deploy that, we know it has what it can do, because that's what we focus on. And then in the end, we optimize templates, we optimize OCR functionalities, and that is what the technical consultant does. So we call it the out-of-the-box results, the instant business value, the low-hanging fruits. I will give you an example of that, which is actually a real-life example at one of our customers. Today, they are doing assembly. Assembly is already sending information to a data collection system. You can see it as a database. It is a light manufacturing execution system, you could say. It's not yet interfaced to S4. Probably also will never be, because they have a great system already here, which is okay. It's very good at least. And also an interface, what you always fear is then they become less agile, you could say. If you then go for a different system, you have to change your interface again. So it's not connected. What is currently happening after the go live of S4 at least, is that a production supervisor is doing the repetitive task of taking a production order, go into the app of production order confirmation, and they simply confirm theoretical time confirmations. Otherwise, it would take too much time to really focus on actual time confirmations. Afterwards, they still do the goods received manually, which is because they have serial numbers. And what is already going automatically, so the green is automatic, the red is manual, is the closing of the production order by a background job. We have a test script or a best practice scenario, which is really covering this, so we can automate right away the following. So we still have the assembly, of course. Data is still sent to the data collection system. That gives an output of an Excel file, so a template, which is being picked up by a bot. That bot is using the actual time confirmations, because for a bot, of course, it doesn't take that much time, or it can calculate easily. Afterwards, it can do the goods receipts also automatically, which is a different best practice bot, and which was already automatically reclosed the order. If you translate that into a business case, then, like I said, you have the very repetitive task of collecting those shop floor papers and confirming it. You could say that is a 1-hour task at the manufacturing site. They have 4 of them. They have an average working days on a year, so 260. I have made a fictive labor cost per hour. That gives you a 52,000 euros yearly recurring cost. We covered that with iRPA, like you just saw. That gives a fixed implementation cost. You have to add some, also that is fictive, by the way, but you have to add some hypercare support to that and so on. you have a very competitive pricing per transaction, so you pay as you go. That is the pricing model. So it gives you a small, in comparison at least, a small implementation cost and a yearly recurring cost of only 520 because of the transactions that you multiply by 4 manufacturing sites. So this is actually what the business case gives and should be a no-brainer, and that's why we also are realizing this at the customer. We have more like this. The purchase order confirmation is always a nice one. So you have the supplier, we're sending a confirmation email to you as a customer. A lot of customers still do that by email, not always via an interface. So there's someone actually putting that into SAP, so manually, writing when the goods will be delivered at site. That is also a best practice scenario where the bot is intelligent enough to read from a predefined email box and then in the end do the order confirmation themselves in the system. In a phase 2, we can take that even one step further. We can, what they now do all manually, is preparing the inbound delivery, doing the goods receipts, and sending back a proof of delivery. Those are all, again, predefined best practices all available from SAP. So we target to do that in the future automatically by a bot. So the creation of the inbound delivery, the goods receipt, and the proof of delivery. Just to state a bit the use cases and how it is for a customer. We have a lot of these predefined best practices. They are available for everyone to look at them in the bot store. I listed a few of them. There are already a new version, so there are more of them. But the master data management is a good example of that. So all master data objects, classic objects, they can be uploaded by an Excel template stored on in a shared drive, for example. Finance has a lot of scenarios. Think about the supplier invoice status checks that can be sent automatically. There is things about dispute management, email notification to the customer. A lot of things can be better done by a bot because they are always scheduled. They do what is necessary on a certain timestamp. Supply chain also have a lot. We saw already the purchase order confirmation. We have also automatic creation of sales orders from Excel. We have the post-goods movement we can reuse a lot. We have also professional services. We have manufacturing and so on and so on. So there's really a lot of content already out of the box. And again, that is 80% of it is enough for a proof of concept, you could say. The other 20% we like to tweak and really make it customer specific. Another offering is what we call the classic RPA realization. This is really like a UiPath or a Blue Prism project would go. It is with SAP or third-party tools. It does not always have to be SAP, to be very clear. It can also be another application, can be an on-premise application, web application, whatever. But you have a specific scenario at the customer side which is painful. There is a design workshop and there is a scope of a project in order to automate that painful process. So you have business process automation project. Then you are going to capture, as a functional consultant, the process flow, the most streamlined process flow. Maybe there are APIs available to make it even more robust. Otherwise, we go through the screens and record the process. So we record that and we do that in the cloud factory, the deployment. And then in the end, the technical consultant is who is really realizing this flow as a bot script to make it in the studio. So we have afterwards a zip file, a zip package that we can upload in the factory and let run. So that is the end-to-end custom automation. Another example that we have, an actual customer example, is currently we have a customer, they have a very heavy business partner creation process, you could say. So purchasing is triggering a request, and then there's a master data team who is reacting on an email, doing the VAT check with an official instance. The master data team is also attaching official documents. In the end, they are creating really that supplier in S/4HANA. And once that is done, they also send the email to finance. Why finance? Because they have to be involved for the 4 eyes principle, and they check the supplier in general, and they add the bank account to that, and they do that because another workflow is being triggered. And once that is done, the supplier is completely created. So it's rather a heavy effort process, a very manual process. There we go. Now we can, of course, also replace those steps that are done by the master data team by a bot. So they can read out the PDF from the request. They can do the VAT check via an API to VIS, the instance. They attach official documents, and in the end, they can also final the supplier creation and including the bank account number. If it's done by a bot, you don't need the 4i principle because it's intended to be compliant from the start. The result would then be a success or an error message. There can be something wrong in that process. So you can maybe train the bot again to make that better. And until that time, you have a success and error message sent out to the purchasing department and the finance department. You could say they are managing by exception what is not going well. Also, there we have a business case. You will notice that the curve is a little bit less steep as before. That is because the implementation cost is also longer. It's a custom process. You can reuse components from best practices, but in the end, there are still a lot of things that you need to test, configure, make specs for it. And those are really custom things that are like in a classic ERP project, you could say, costing a lot of time. The tangible benefits would be there at the customer break even after 1 month. They have FTE reduction after 3 months, and actually they have a 50% reduction after 1 year. That is because they wanted to have a lot of support, especially during the first year, in order to make sure that process is going well. That is the tangible, where the figures are, but there are also process enhancements because of the FTEs can now shift their focus from repetitive tasks to value-adding tasks, so they keep optimizing and searching for operational excellence. You have immediate action, especially for suppliers creations or business partners in general. It's very frustrating that it takes a lot of time by a lot of people to go through the flow and then in the end get a business partner. And you have the risk that you lose business opportunity in that way. It is designed to be less error prone. It's a robot, so it does what you program it. It is standardized process enforcement, so the steps will be done, not optional, let's say. Cross-department information, so you saw also the notification after it's being sent out, so you have a shared information system. And in the end, in this case, you will create supplier satisfaction because you have shorter reaction times to them. To summarize that, what comes out of the box in the first offering, so the instant business value, it is a proof of concept, you could say. With a custom end-to-end automation, there's nothing out of the box. You have to start still. Solution building. So you start from pre-delivered scripts and you realize delta requirements. I already said it, 80% best practice, 20% adapting. With custom end-to-end automation, you start from scratch, between brackets. That depends on how complex your specific process is. Of course, you aim to reuse components from other scenarios, best practice scenarios, and so on. The implementation time is significantly shorter for instant business value. We can talk about days, maximum weeks, instead of doing this for weeks or months. We did a UiPath benchmark where they state an average automation process costs about 8 to 24 weeks, including testing and so on. And it's also project management in that scope. Support, if it's just the best practice, you can log the incidents to SAP, just support.sap.com. They have a shared responsibility to make the bot work. Otherwise, you have the hypercare support of the implementation partner at custom end-to-end automation. Of course, depending on your requirements, you go for one or the other action. You choose, you make a choice. But of course, if you have the option or you see benefits in what is already being pre-delivered, then you can have a rapid instant business value. I do have a short, very simple demo of a best practice like that. It is to create products. I took this one because everyone, it's very tangible for everyone, and it's a very short and easy thing to show. So you have a template being pre-delivered. What you do is actually, you have a reference material and you have an exact copy you want to make of that. So you just change the description and potentially the unit of measure. I just prove here that the material was not created yet. I save that. And now it is on an environment, so a shared drive, which is ready for the bot to pick it up. Okay, I go to the agent, which I explained in the beginning. So there you see which scenarios are active to you. So you have authorizations on that and so on. So for me, on my local machine, I am able, with my agent, to create product master data with reference. Okay, I triggered it. This is what the bot is doing. So hands off the keyboard. Is seeing those 15 materials to be created. Is actually doing that now through an API in the background, because you don't see it logging in and so on. Okay, it made a success message. I will show that later. Then I go to the factory. So this is where you orchestrate, monitor all your processes, and you have very nice graphs on that, very nice visuals. Of course, I only have run one process, but you have to see that this is the is collecting all the processes. If I go into the technical details of the results, I can see indeed that 15 materials have been successfully created. If that would not have been the case, the bot would have created a folder, if not yet existing, with error files. And then you could walk in next day or whatever, and managing by exception, you see what is in the error file. You also got an email, for example, and then you see, okay, those ones I need to process manually because something is just not right within that template, for example. Okay, so that was a successful run. I open the file again. So the bot wrote that indeed the product was created successfully. And if I take one of those, then indeed it will be created. It's a very easy best practice. There's already in the meanwhile a second production version, which not only creates with that reference the product, but also the bill of material, the routing, and the production version, all in one go if needed. So that is what is currently already active, pre-delivered out of the box, you could say. We have a lot of this demo material, so if you want to see more of that, we are happy to connect with you and to show you more of that. So, why iRPA? As in, why RPA from SAP, you could say. There is smart tech, so it has everything what is needed from an RPA. So you have an attended and unattended mode, drag and drop workflow designer, a powerful JavaScript editor, and a high componentry usability. And you saw the product roadmap. There's a lot more to come. The DNA is SAP, so it's part of the Intelligent Enterprise Suite. It has seamless integration with conversational AI, machine learning, and other SAP applications. You saw that SAP Analytics Cloud, for example, is also coming in next quarter. You have the APIs available for robust automation. That is really a differentiator. It is there to use. It's already included in the studio. Dedicated connectors to SAP UI5, Fiori, and SAP GUI. So also for ECC customers, again, this is working. It's not only S/4HANA, which is innovation. And it's also not only SAP, but it can handle also third-party applications. The business value, especially going close to the best practices or reuse components from those best practices, give you rapid deployment and an instant business value. You get the support from SAP, so you can log incidents for that. And also there, the best practices, they have a roadmap which is really extensive. And you saw the process monitoring, and then I'm also talking about authorizations and so on. So the Cloud Factory is really user-friendly in order to manage those processes. Pricing, last but not least, it's very competitively priced. You pay as you go. There is a digital access for system user instead of dialogue user. So that's also a differentiator that SAP, of course, smartly implemented with an with the UiPath or Blue Prism. You are actually intended to use a dialogue user. So license-wise, that is a difference compared to digital access, which is granted to all iRPA bots. So that's what I wanted to wrap up in a short presentation. We can talk a lot more about that and share more business cases, demos, whatsoever. So we are, of course, curious where you are in your automation journey. Is RPA already part of your IT strategy? And what are your business cases that will bring instant or not value? So please let us know, and we are also happy to support you in that journey. Questions and answers? Do we have questions in the chat, Sylvie?
Hi, Kenny. Thank you very much. So far, there are no so far there's no question on the chat. So perhaps somebody has one or wants to speak out. So yeah, that brings us to the closing now. Thank you very much, Kenny. It's crystal clear now how and why your company should outsource tasks to a robot, specifically in an SAP environment. Me personally, I really liked your business cases, and then also the best practices linked to business cases. So yeah, really cool. So this takes you really very close to a more autonomous and an intelligent enterprise. So our call to action to you all, and the call is really like Kenny said, connect with us in a personal way, one-to-one. We are really eager to find out what your specific scenarios or cases are within your company. So really happy and eager to discuss with you in a one-to-one conversation. So warm thank you to all of you, and hope to see you soon at the next one on the 4th of June. Also on technology and innovation. So hope to see and meet you over there. Kenny?
Thank you. Thank you all.
Also just like to say thank you again, and that the recording will be uploaded. And if you need any extra information, as Sylvia has mentioned, just let us know. But thank you very much for attending today. And thank you, Kenny and Sylvie, for hosting us. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.